Hello everybody, welcome to the playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wins for the Century Harbor and the Christmas Down Under tournament here in Golf Clash the game. We're playing from the second tee, which is Pro and Expert Division. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. For those of you that do want to have a little bit more focus on the Christmas celebrations, make sure to get yourself the guide package for your division expert and our master to make sure you can focus on the fun part and we do the dial in for you so you can just execute and have some fun. Make sure to follow the info box on the right hand side to get the club distance adjustment, the elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that the new course such as the Century Harbor is not going to be easy, but it's going to be a fun challenge. There's a lot of sand, a lot of rough, a lot of water, but nonetheless we're going to do our very best to get ourselves dialed in and get some drops. Let's go to hole number 1. So let's start with hole number 1 here, obviously, and we're gonna play with 3 topspin and 3 right spin with this wind angle. The idea here is to get the ball as far down the right side of the fairway. I would say like this is a hole that I don't want to lay up on. And the reason for that is something you will notice when we play the second shot, because that's gonna be a difficult one. Adjustment max plus 20, and I'm going to use half a ball of curl to the right. You can play with a ball with less power here if you would like, but I recommend the wind 3 at least to reduce the wind as much as possible. Ball gets down the fairway and we want the ball to stop as close to the rough line possible. Second shot, we're gonna play with a long iron to pin, and here you can see I'm using my B52. You can play Grizzly if you would like. It's very recommended to play at least with a ball guideline is 4.0 or better. You can see here that I'm using somewhat 4-bar backspin and 1.8 left spin, ball guideline to go through the hole, but most importantly, my friends, is that we would like to have the ball, the second bounce in the center of the fairway, and that's what I'm correcting there in the end by adding a little bit more backspin. Ball guideline to go 1 green square through the hole. We're gonna play max plus 20. The thing we need to have in mind here is that this shot is very difficult. Having to lay up, you're going to have to either go for a sand bump or you're going to have to go bouncing over the bunker. But after testing the sand bump and after testing bouncing over the bunker, I know what I would like to play, and that is the bounce over. Unfortunately, we are just burning the edge here. We can see how the ball trickles down the green and catches that downhill slope, which is making this shot as difficult as it is. Because that down slope there is going to obviously create a much greater speed for the ball to roll down towards the pin, and we need to catch that one perfectly. So if we do have more or less a straight tailwind from tee, we can go aggressive. Unfortunately, I didn't get that in practice, but looking at the course and how it's designed, we can then go full blast and get the ball as far down the fairway possible with a power fireball. Then that obviously opens up a much better chance to get an eagle on this par 4. So to summarize here, this par 4 is going to be difficult to get an eagle at, especially if we're going to have to lay up. I believe the chances for a drop is much greater on, I would say, almost every single hole else that is of the Century Harbor here for the tournament. So for hole number 2, it's a very interesting par 3. I tried many type of different plays here, but I settled for 2 types of play where I'm gonna show you the headwind route, whereof the crosswind and the tailwind is gonna be played with a sniper. So 3.8 backspin, 1 left spin, but I'm setting up with my bullseye just before it kind of gets this wonky bounce. So I'm looking for the ball guideline to go through the hole before spin, then I add the spin. Medium distance with a 20% over adjustment. Take it easy when you pull here, because if you pull very quickly, it's gonna jump you it's gonna make you not have a straight pull, is what I'm trying to say. Hit perfect, and this ball will not go directly at pin. It will actually go left at pin and fall down, because that is what I'm looking for here, because I couldn't find any consistency in terms of the roll towards the pin. So I'm looking to roll up on the left and find that groove that is there to have the ball fall back down. If we do have a tailwind here, I recommend to start with a power 4 ball to then swap to a power 3 ball after you have made your adjustment with your sniper. And then we do the same type of double bounce, but we are then in that case doing, we're not doing a double bounce, we're doing a triple bounce then on the first fairway, second fairway, and then over towards the green, and then roll up to get that ball in the hole. Unfortunately, no video of that, but here you have an example at least on how to attack hole number 2 of the Centenary Harbor here for the Christmas Down Under tournament. Here on hole number 3, you will see two options. We're gonna start with one where we're gonna go aggressive in tailwind, because if we can't go aggressive, then we're gonna have to lay up and just play it safe. So I wanted to at least find us a way of attacking for the albatross. So here I'm gonna start with using 6 bars of topspin, 2 bars of side spin, this to reflect even lower level Apocalypse clubs. Stretch out, look for the target to be pointing into that, you know, that bowl-shaped form fairway. 2 right spin, max overpower, and try to hit perfect. The ball bounces on the fairway into the rough, and as it's downhill, the ball is not going to stop into the rough, it's still going to continue to roll. And now we roll through, gets ourselves down on the fairway. I would like though for you to keep yourself with the Cataclysm if you have it in level 7 or level 8. If you do have a lower level Cataclysm, which, you know, the majority of you will have if you play in Expert or Pro, then pick the Sniper instead and gamble a little bit. Because the reason I say it's a gamble is because I do want us to have the distance enough to go over the water. Because if we can't go over the water with our wood club, then it's going to be a problem. And especially then if we do have a slow roll through the rough on the drive, yeah, that's going to be an issue. Leaving the ball guideline approximately 2 green squares short of pin here. With the Cat 7, I would say we should have left it a little bit more actually. True distance, and we play with 5% elevation. So we check where minimum distance are, and then to ultimately check where maximum distance are too. And then we judge that club distance and use 5% elevation to that. Perfect ball. And here we're gonna find ourselves bouncing on the fairway over the bunker, and we're actually getting this ball to drop for an albatross on hole number 3, which is gonna be very, very rare. Have in mind that this shot is only a possibility if we can get down that hill, get past that rough, and then we need to play aggressive off tee. But if having crosswind or headwind, that's not gonna be a possibility. So what should we do then? Should we just give up and forfeit? No, we're gonna do what I'm gonna show you here next. So for the more safe option here, it's still tailwind as it's still the same version from practice, but I'm gonna lay up, and this is the play that we're gonna look for even if we do have crosswind or we do have headwind. A power 5 ball is what I recommend to use here too. In tailwind, having to lay up, I'm using no backspin or topspin, I'm using 2 right spin. If I would be having a crosswind, I would be using 2 bars of topspin. If I would be playing in headwind, I would be playing 5 bars of topspin. In all of the options, I'm looking to bounce into the rough, like I'm bouncing on the fairway into the rough to roll out on the other fairway. Because if having a crosswind or headwind, there is unfortunately no chance for you to do the drive that we do in tailwind, and there is no other ways of playing that would take us closer towards the pin. Maximum distance plus 15, what I'm using on the drive, and using some curl as well to push the ball more right to once again get closer towards the pin. Second shot, you can see here I'm using the wood club that gives me the most distance possible. And now, as there is no chance for me here to get an albatross, so I'm gonna play this one safe. I'm gonna bounce this ball down towards the green and take my eagle. And that's what I'm gonna do in headwind and crosswind every single time, because again, there is no chances for us to make an albatross here because the bunker there is put perfectly to just mess it up completely. Max plus 25 is what we're using here because this is massively downhill. 2 left spin together with a couple of bars of top spin if needed. If we're having a headwind, then we obviously have to use a little bit more because we're gonna fall shorter. I'm not ruling out that overpower is gonna be needed depending on obviously the distance after our drive. We get ourselves to green, we take the eagle, and then be done with it. So to summarize hole number 3, if we do have a tailwind, we can have some fun here. But if I have crosswind or headwind, this is gonna be a fairly boring hole where we're only gonna look for an eagle. So on the drive here, we're gonna play this drive massively downhill, right? So I'm gonna use 3 right spin, and I'm also using 6 bars of top spin. And the reason I'm keeping myself with 6 bars of top spin, even though I have more top spin, is to mirror clubs that do have a lower level. So don't steer yourself blind that I'm using an Apocalypse level 7. Adjust max plus 25. If you go into overpower, you're gonna have to use a little bit of overpower as well to compensate for not reaching the full distance of the thought of adjustment. Bouncing in on the fairway into the rough to roll out onto the fairway. And here I would say that playing with a higher level power ball is not going to be wrong. And the reason I say it's not wrong is due to the fact that it will simplify the drive. Second shot, now we're gonna utilize the minimum distance line when it comes to having the Grizzly and the Sniper in bag. So pack the Grizzly already from start to make sure that we can find the minimum distance line the easiest way possible. 3 left spin and whatever backspin to make the ball guideline to go approximately 1 green square through the hole. Here for the adjustment, I'm playing this one in between minimum distance -5% and -10%, which would then suit to be minimum distance -5% and power 2 ball, right? So even if we play with a power 3 ball, the minimum distance -5%, power 2 ball for the adjustment here. I'm trying to favor 1159 on my pull angle to make sure that I'm gonna pull myself a little bit higher up as well. And that's with this angle, obviously that could change for other angles. Perfect ball. Bouncing into the rough, we have room for great left, great right, we have loads of room. And as it's slightly downhill on the green, even though it looks like it's gonna stop, it's not gonna stop. And we get it to drop for a lovely eagle here on hole number 5. Hole number 4, and this is going to be an interesting par 3 which has a massive funnel, right? So I'm going to play with the rocket here due to its backspin. I want 7 backspin and I'm using 1 bar of left spin. You can see here now that I'm looking to use the rough bump that is in between the bunkers, but look at this funnel. I can move left and right, and the ball guideline is more or less going to be at the same place all the time. You can see I'm aiming left side of the cup, just to counteract the wind push here. I'm not gonna say that you need to offset like this in all winds, but in this wind it works. Minimum distance and no elevation. We are just down into the bunker, which means that we don't need a pullback or a push up or anything like that. It's gonna kind of compensate itself. Have in mind that if you do have a tailwind, you're gonna have to use a pullback, or you're gonna have to use a pullback, or you're gonna have to use underpower. You can see that the ball takes a very weird turn on the green, but right and dead center. And this shot I dropped several times with different type of winds in practice. I do believe that this is going to be a very good chance. I do feel that a sand bump is also a possibility, but for me, a rough bump where we can hit great left or great right is definitely going to be preferred. And again, the rocket is a key club here to give ourselves 7 bars of backspin, as the other drivers will struggle with that amount of a backspin. So on the drive here, there is so much value in going over the bunker and the rough in the center. Because if we don't do that and trying to lay up on the left, it's going to be a much more difficult approach. And I will talk about that in the end here. But we're gonna use 6 top spin. I'm using 2 bars of right spin, aiming towards the left side of the rough patch on the top there. Max plus 30 in adjustment, and I'm using max overpower with outside wall curl right, and it's a slow needle, so it's very easy to handle when it comes to the overpower. Even though I hit great right, it's still safe, and a perfect will also be safe. A great left most likely roll into the rough. So if I wouldn't be able to have crosswind or tailwind off tee, then headwind will force me to lay up left. And then if having headwind, we're gonna have to play with a power 5 ball in my opinion, because otherwise it's gonna be purely a way of playing this hole for an eagle. On the second shot, you will notice here now that there is a pretty massive funnel here. Once I've set the spin, I'm gonna use approximately 1.8 backspin and 1 left. Look here for me wiggling around there, and you can see that massive funnel. And the only thing that I kind of make a mistake on here is that I do adjust for 10% elevation through distance. And after my adjustment has been made, I'm pushing up half a ring, and the push up there is to compensate for dropping down into the sand. But I should have either have pushed up more or let the ball guideline go through the hole a little bit more with my spins, because the issue I do have here is that I go short in line. But you can see here that even if I don't hit the spot that I was aiming for, you can see that it still catches that massive funnel and rolls almost in the hole, but you see short in line. So if we can get ourselves to the spot where we can attack into that funnel, we have a good chance for an albatross, in my opinion. But if having the wrong wind of T, such as a headwind, we're gonna have to lay up more to the left, then we're gonna have to use that power 5 ball to maybe reach for that rough bump. But most of the cases we won't reach for that rough bump, and we're going to get ourselves into a position where we just play for an eagle. You can also play with a sniper here. I play with the Cataclysm level 7 or level 8 because it has a good ball guideline and accuracy to make sure that I always have the power enough, because there is a little gamble with the sniper. If you don't have the power enough, you might have to go with overpower, and that's just so unnecessary. But especially playing with a power 4 or a power 5 ball, if you don't have headwind on the second shot, it's going to be no problem at all to play with sniper all the time. So on the drive here, we're gonna first and foremost look to what's the options we have here. So the first option is, and should always be your first option, is to try to bounce over the water. You can bounce over the water even using 6 bars of topspin here. So using 6 topspin, 1 right spin, and I'm trying to aim towards the rough, or like the left side of the top bunker. Adjustment should be max plus 20. And here I'm pushing up to max and going max overpower, and you will notice that it's not really needed to push up to max because we're getting dangerously close to the water here. Outside wall, ball, curl right, and max overpower. What I would like to have said to you is that if you do have a headwind, I'm talking now more a direct headwind here, you cannot play this shot here, because then you're gonna have to lay up on the fairway that was on the left side of the game screen. The problem with the left side there is that you're only then playing for an eagle, because you're not going to have distance. Even with a power 5 ball, you're not going to have the distance enough to go for pin. One thing to also think about when you're playing this aggressive drive, as I'm doing here, is like if you're getting short, trying to maybe position yourself short, or if you clip the rough above the water, then the trees on the right side will be in the way. So we kind of need to push it. You see the trees there on the right side. That's what I was looking for as well when doing that move to the right already from the beginning. So we need to think about that too. There's a lot of things to think about on this hole, but if we do the drive correct, we're going to have a very good opportunity with our Falcon. So I'm going to play this one true distance with 10% elevation, 2 right spin, and whatever then backspin, like it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 3 bars of backspin. Adjustments made, center the ball, and hit perfect. There we go, perfect ball. And you see we bounce on the fairway nicely, gets up towards the pin, and dead center for a lovely eagle on hole number 7. Again, you know, to just have that said, playing this one with any form of tailwind is going to give you a good chance for an eagle. But at the same time, if we do have a headwind, this hole is just going to be a general birdie hole. So let's hope for a good win on hole 7. So hole number 8 is, in my opinion, the toughest of the 3 par 3. And the reason for that is that we don't really have any good reference to work on, and you can see here that I'm aiming to have my first bounce on the sloped fairway, and this because the rough bump is not in play, and I don't want to play on the left side. It feels just super strange with that very sloped fairway there too, to bounce up the ball to the right without having any ball guideline reference to use. So using 3 right spin, I'm setting up with 5 backspin, and after I've set that up with ball guideline to the hole, I'm changing to 2.5 bar side spin instead. And the reason I do that is to prevent myself to have to offset on the side, which is going to be very difficult to get correct, and that's why I'm changing as I do. Medium distance plus 15% power 3 ball numbers, which is 1-to-1 plus 0.1. Bounce on the fairway, the ball comes in with a good speed, but just burning the edge on the right hand side. So yeah, hole number 8 is gonna offer an opportunity, obviously, but it's gonna be, once again, the toughest of the par 3s to drop. Quarterback can be used in slight headwind, crosswind, and tailwind. If we do have a direct headwind, you're gonna have to play with the rock or any other club that do have more power. So on the drive here, this is gonna be a very weird hole to play because there are so many fairways, but there are also a lot of rough and bunkers and everything, and it's also massively downhill. So it has a little bit of everything. 2 topspin, 2 right spin. You can see here that I'm looking to have the third bounce to go somewhat halfway into the rough. I am a little bit short of that, which is something that I need to correct for the next time. I play with a 12-01, which is fairly stupid because it takes me closer to the bunker in the center, so straight pull is what is recommended. Max plus 30 is what we're looking for. I'm hitting a great right, but it doesn't really matter. We still get the outcome that I was looking for. So the thing that I was looking for is actually to do exactly what happens. I mean, bouncing 2 times on the fairway into the rough to then slow the ball down. And then you might wonder, why do that? Why complicate it so much with bouncing like that out from the rough? It's because if we are not pushing the drive with some overpower and trying to use a lot of backspin and do a single bounce over that rough, the issue we have is that we will come in with too much speed if trying to double bounce it over without clipping the rough, and then we will roll into the rough at the top, and then then that's just going to be then a way for us to try to save the eagle from there. So to be able to get the ball to stop, to be able to get ourselves a shot for an albatross, that is something that we're gonna have to do. Second shot, here there's obviously value playing with a ball with more power, and then the sniper could definitely be a possibility. You will notice here now, if you look closely to when I'm moving my target there into the rough, you can see that the ball guideline is not moving. So there is a pretty massive funnel here from where we are playing. However, we're gonna have to play close to the rough line, which obviously makes it risky for some great balls. But at the same time, the funnel is so huge that it's such a chance to get an albatross on a tough par 5 that I do believe it's worth taking the risk. Adjustments 20% elevation through distance. You can notice here as well that when I do have some tailwind, and only with tailwind, I'm using an underpower, which is my top of the ball to just cover the top teeth. And the reason for that is that when we do have tailwind, we're going to adjust to a higher point and then we're going to gain more distance, and I don't want to miss the rough. If I have a straight crosswind or a headwind, I won't be using any underpower, obviously, because we will then we won't use any underpower there because we're gonna not adjust to a higher point or a lower point for that matter. So this is definitely a chance for us to make an albatross in this one, but everything needs to be spot on. So it's not easy, but the chance is definitely there. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert division for the Century Harbor and the Christmas Down Under tournament here in Golf Clash the game. Make sure to get yourself a guide package for Expert and or Master for the upcoming Christmas Down Under tournament to give yourself an edge over your opponents, but also getting yourself a chance of focusing on the Christmas celebrations, and we will do the job dialing in the shot for you. So make sure to go to patreon.com/golfclashonme. You do have the link directly in the description down below. Much love to you all. Thank you so much everybody for watching once again, and a massive good luck in your Golf Clash game.